But let's move on now, and let's jump into one of our favorite teams here on the Fast Break Podcast, the 76ers. They made huge news as they had 2 one-year deals. J.J. Redick and Amir Johnson now coming over and becoming 76ers here. So the free agent Amir Johnson signing a 1-year, $11 million deal, and J.J. Redick is making bank. And I think you said the more than he made in his whole career.
Close. It was like 26 in... With the Clippers over 4 years?
J.J. Redick, 1 year, 23 mil, and Dave was saying 26 with his career with the Clippers. Yeah, so that's crazy. J.J. Redick getting paid, and Amir Johnson getting paid. So looking at this, piecing together all of this, Amir Johnson most likely going to come off the bench with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Rocco, all playing in the starting lineup. Amir Johnson most likely coming off the bench. J.J. Redick most likely going to be the shooting guard and should be the shooting guard in that lineup. So looking at that, Markelle Fultz, J.J. Redick, Robert Covington, you have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as your starting lineup, and then Dario Saric and Amir Johnson and T.J. McConnell, one of Dave's favorite players, and Timothy Luwawu Cabaret. Looking at all of this, are the 76ers loaded up to make the playoffs this year?
God, that's scary to even say this
Are they going to be healthy? That's my follow-up question.
Well, that plays into it.
Because if the answer is no, then no.
Well, that plays into it. Well, you have to say, are they going to be a playoff team, taking in the factors that obviously Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz combined, even though Fultz hasn't had injury issues yet, have played a combined 33 games in their careers.
I'm going to say I want to lean towards playoffs for the Sixers, not only because of on paper they have good players, but also look at what has happened, not just in the East, but to 2 of the playoff teams from the East. Bulls traded Jimmy Butler, got rid of Rajon Rondo. Probably not going to be a playoff team this year. I'm not looking too high for my Chicago Bulls.
Correct.
And then also the Indiana Pacers trading Paul George. They're probably not going to be a playoff team this year either.
And so don't forget the Hawks.
And don't forget the
traded
Hawks.
Away Howard, and most likely they're going to lose Millsap.
And they're going to lose Millsap in free agency.
So that's 3 teams from the East going out.
I mean, I like the odds
and the number
Sixers.
10 team, the Pistons, didn't get better this offseason. The Hornets, we'll see.
They got better.
Well,
they added pieces.
They added pieces, so I think they're on the up.
They got Malik Monk, too.
But at the same time, the 76ers making that jump from a 28-win team, 14th seed. All they got to do is get up to 40. I mean, that's 12 games up, and that's by playing.
Is the training staff.
Yeah, it is. To be fair, though, Joel Embiid didn't play a majority of games last year, not because of his injury, but because of there's no point.
Well, there's no point to re-injure or risk the fact of re-injuring.
When you can go ahead and get yourself another top 3 pick.
Well, and one thing, too, when Joel Embiid was in there for those 33 games, that team looked different. I mean,
dynamic.
The team looked, they were winning games. He was still on a minute restriction. I mean, obviously, Brian Colangelo saying they're not going to be on a minute restriction, then Brett Brown being like, hold up here. But still, you look at this team, they are still young, they still have a lot of fire. We don't know what Ben Simmons can do on an NBA court, but damn, it should be good for what we're waiting for.
Good.
Markelle Fultz was unanimous, at least between Dave and I, the number 1 player in this draft. I know you were up and down on him.
Lonzo.
So obviously, you're getting a lot of talent on this team, but what do they need to put it together? Because we'll get to the East a little bit and how it's weakened, but how can this team put together all this talent, and how does this starting lineup, at least with Robert Covington, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, J.J. Redick, and Markelle Fultz?
The starting lineup is really exciting because I think adding in J.J. Redick to this team is huge. He's a guy who has been around the league. He's a little older. He's a very savvy veteran, and he has playoff experience. It's everything you want for this team. This is a great locker room presence. It's a great on-the-court impact because he has that 3-ball, which helps them space.
Hasn't gone past the second round, though. Just want to throw that out there.
To be fair,
bash the Clippers balls.
I don't think the Sixers are worried about that this year. And it's only a 1-year deal.
Again, I was just joking because I like busting the Clippers balls.
I know. I do love that. But no, I think the fit is perfect. It helps him stretch out the floor. It's a great role model for the younger shooters to follow in his footsteps. Honestly, I'm super excited because the last brick to fall now is moving Ja out of town. Because, like you said, with the pickup of Amir Johnson, Ja's now like 4th on the depth chart. And yeah, he just doesn't have a home. That's the biggest problem. But the rest of this team, I just see a ton of young potential. And they're doing the right thing by not doing long-term contracts for these guys. They're 1-year deals, and it's going to be, all right, we're going to pay Robert Covington next year. We're going to probably pay Embiid next year. So let's make sure that we have our money straight and that we're completely set for this.
Well, one thing, Ricky, I want to bring up and toss over to you is at least JJ Redick coming to a different team, because we've seen him on 3 teams. Well, now this is going to be his 4th team now in the NBA. Started off in Orlando, then was traded to Milwaukee for a little bit, and obviously spent his best years in Los Angeles. But you look at the transition. Is he going to suffer at least? Obviously he's a great shooter, but you think he's going to suffer not being around one of the best playmakers in the NBA and Chris Paul, not having people being taken away from DeAndre Jordan, taken away from Blake Griffin? You don't think he's going to struggle at all? You think he's going to be able to average 16, 15 points a game?
No, because that Clipper team couldn't work. That Clipper team, well, as soon as Doc
I'm saying
like,
JJ Redick fit in that team. Is he going to fit with the 76ers?
I don't think he's going to have, of course it's going to be a different way he works in this system than with the Clippers. I don't think we're going to have a huge drop-off of wow, JJ Redick really had a shit year this year. I look at this and I think of 2 things after the signing. Mm-hmm. The first one I think of is, well, this is the first guy that we've seen in this class saying, well, you know what? This West is getting really loaded. I'm jumping ship. I'm going the other way. The other thing I look at, which is more importantly here, is this team, because really to me, JJ had 2 decisions. The Clippers weren't even in my mind with him. Mm-hmm. 2 contenders in playoff land of the 76ers in the East or Minnesota in the West. And I say contenders like making the playoffs, not like a championship.
Both teams have bright futures, no doubt.
And he turned down the Timberwolves. Yeah, I know the money was different, but he turned down the Timberwolves, who don't have the injury questions like the 76ers and have a now more proven veteran than the 76ers have in Jimmy Butler. And they have, to me, the better coach than the 76ers, but he still chose the 76ers. And I know people are going to say, well, Ricky, it's because of the money. The money was better to take on 1 year than a 2-year deal in Minnesota. Part of me goes, did he just look at what they're building in Philadelphia and say, this is going to be fun, and I can help these young guys win?
Well, I think that's definitely a part of it, that he's going to have, at least help build a culture there in Philadelphia, still get some playing time, and definitely at least be still an effective shooter. It's not like he's going to drop off shooting percentage-wise. He might go down to 40%. I mean, he was sitting around 40.
Might become a mortal man.
I mean, he was shooting around 44%, so that might drop down to a 42, 41, but still, very. I mean, it's worth the money. But I mean, it's hard not to say no to $23 million. I mean, it doesn't matter which team you pick, whether the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference making the playoffs. If you wanted to make the playoffs, you would have taken a cheap contract and played for the Rockets or something like that. I mean,
that's true. That was rumored on table too.
He could have went somewhere and just taken a ton, a less contract. This is the most JJ Redick's going to get paid, and he's a 33-year-old. I mean, no one at 33 comes to your door and says, "Hey, you want to make $23 million?"
He's cashing
as a guy
in?
that was a 4th option. Yeah, he's cashing in, and I don't blame JJ Redick, but still. I think the question still needs to be put out there, Dave. Is JJ Redick going to be able to fit and work there with the 76ers like he did? I mean, is he going to be able to put up 16 or 15 a night?
I think it's a different role.
I mean, he's going to be a spot-up shooter. It's not like he's great defensively.
Right. No, I understand that. But I think as far as him on the Clippers was very much you're the afterthought of this. It was ball movement through Chris Paul, and he was always creating. I think this 76ers team is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because you have the unknowns in Ben Simmons and Fultz as far as ball handling, the ball movement on the court. Again, we talked about Brett Brown being a very good coach, but he's been playing with a lot of guys who are inexperienced. So now you're having JJ Redick come in, who used to be under Doc. It's a very different style, and it's a very different situation. So I think that him coming in with unknowns with your primary ball handlers, I think he can kind of come in and be like, here's exactly what I think is going to work out for us. Here's Brett Brown seeing, now we have a great knockdown shooter. Is he your 1 on offense? No, he's still not your 1. He's still going to be...
He's still your 4.
I don't think he's your 4. I think he's your 2. I think he comes in as your 2.
Really?
I think it's still, you want to feed Joel Embiid, and I think he's the only... Who's proven?
No one's proven.
That's my point.
But you're going to rely on a spot-up shooter for your number 2 scoring option. Yeah. JJ Redick's never put up over 17 points per game in his career. You're going to rely on JJ Redick to be your second scoring option when he was sitting beyond DeAndre Jordan, who could only dunk.
Yep.
How does that work?
Look, it's going to be.
It's not like Markelle Fultz. Is touted as one of a great scorer. I mean, he can come in.
He's a pretty good scorer.
He can come in. I mean, he's been put around as a guy that's going to be able to score 25 in this league.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like it's a guy that's I mean, you can.
I'm just saying second option in the offense. I'm not saying second leading scorer.
Okay.
I'm saying he will get open looks because of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Markelle Fultz. I think those three guys are going to garner the majority of the attention. And with him and Rocco staying on the outside,
you leave him open.
That's the thing. That's the thing is with those two open, Covington has a decent shot. It's just he has poor shot selection. I think adding JJ Redick makes him infinitely more valuable on that outside. And then again, Fultz, Simmons being primary ball handlers, I can see that working out really well. It's just all on how that ball gets moved around because my mind is still going, Embiid is your number one scoring weapon. Fultz is probably going to be second.
Into the number 2.
He's either going to be your number 2 or your number 1. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's going to lead the team in scoring. He's going to be second in the team in scoring. I see him no minutes restriction and going to be playing, like, all out, like, 33 minutes.
Because how many times do you see a center at least lead the team?
Exactly.
I mean, it's usually go away. I mean,
unless it's the Pelicans.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not like you're going to go...
Like, he's going to get looks, and I think he'll take advantage of them. I don't think he's going to lead the team in scoring, but I think his value to the team is more than just adding a spot-up shooter. I think the way it stretched out the floor and opens up the game plan for these guys is going to be amazing.
And let's move now to the East because obviously, I mean, it's hard to see JJ Redick not working in today's NBA. It's not like Ben Simmons can't move the ball. We've obviously talked about his flashy passing. Markelle Fultz was a guy that really set up or tried to set up his teammates. His basketball players that were also in Washington.
Guys who wore uniforms just like his.
Exactly. Joel Embiid's a guy that can stretch it out and he can at least pass it over, 15 feet where Ginger, or
15 feet, you got it.
Not 15 feet. It's midnight right now.
It's one.
A little bit later.
It's 1. He can pass the ball to JJ Redick, who's standing right next to him. But what I'm talking about is at least the Eastern Conference, because this is the question of the video. Can the 76ers make it into the playoffs? And we talked about the Bulls falling off. We talked about the Hawks falling off. We talked about the Pacers falling off. So what will it take for this team to get there? Obviously, you're shooting for that 40-win mark. But is it going to need to be a hot start? Is it going to be consistency? Are we going to see something where maybe this team isn't going to be putting it together all in the beginning and we might see a hot surge like Miami? Because obviously last year we saw once Embiid started playing, we saw this huge surge from Philadelphia. So is this going to be a very up and down streaky team, or is this going to be a team that's going to be consistent throughout?
I think it's easy. It's health. As long as this
that
team,
didn't answer the question.
As long as this team is healthy, I think that they'll make the playoffs. Like that is what is our
defining healthy? I mean, are we expecting
like that
Embiid's going to play 60 games? Embiid's going to play 50 games? The majority of the season 40 games?
He's there. More than 30. Definitely more than 30.
I mean, I could play more than 30 games in the NBA game.
If Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are not out there for the majority of the games, then you're going to expect Markelle Fultz to carry this team. Either you're not going to make the playoffs. So to me, I look at health, and you got to have all your guys healthy playing the majority of their games. And the one thing I will say, you know what I can't wait for? Can't wait. I don't know the seedings yet, but I can't wait for Cavs 76ers round 1 next year.
Dave,
can't wait.
Do you want to answer the first question that I threw out there? Is this going to be a streaky team? Is this going to be a consistent
I can definitely
team?
take that one. I'd like to answer your question, Sean.
What is the answer to that one?
The way I see it going is it's going to be a slow start. I don't expect this to be like the instant success we saw to the Lakers last year, which was really shocking, where they had young guys really outperforming and excellent play out of their bench. I think this is a team that has really good potential, both in your starting 5, but also in your bench 5. So I think that because you have the balance of really good ball handlers, both on your starting and your bench, because you still have Dario and TJ on the bench. You have Bayless, who unfortunately is on that contract that's a couple more years, but still has value there. So you've got 3 guys on your bench who can be good ball handlers. You've got a couple guys in your starting lineup. Like the majority of this is going to be controlling the streakiness of this, because we watched when Embiid would go in games, they'd get on a roll, they'd get momentum, they looked very sharp. Embiid comes out, they start to look a little lost offensively, and now we have Furkan coming over. We have TLC after the end of last year who looked very confident. So I think that I've got a lot of faith in this 10-man lineup going fairly deep and being comfortable. I think they're going to probably be like a 50-50 start to the season for the first 2 months. And then I can see them getting on that roll right around the All-Star break again. And I think that they're really going to shine. I don't know if it's going to I don't expect the Miami Heat levels of run.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to probably be a 40-win team. That's honest expectation from me.
Well, and I got a couple questions coming out of that. And first off, I want to kind of set the scene. And Ricky, looking at Jahlil Okafor, because he's currently still on this team, is there a position that you're going to look to fill, or at least a role that you're going to look to fill when you do move Ja? I mean, are you going to go for a guy that can at least work in the paint? Is you going to look for strictly a defender? What piece do you think would fit nice? What piece do you think is lacking from the 76ers team? Is there a 3-and-D guy? What do you really think of?
I mean, with me, the thing that when I think of all these players, the one thing that, I mean, and JJ Redick adds to it is shooting. I'd be fine if I just got a shooter or got 2 shooters out of Jahlil Okafor. Like that at the minimum is what I would want. It's just guys that can shoot, because hopefully Fultz, Simmons, and even Embiid are going to help with the ball movement to find our open shooters and score points.
Are you looking for any certain position? Because obviously, point guard, you have Jared Bayless, you have T.J. McConnell, you have Markelle Fultz. So, I mean, I don't know if you really have room there. Shooting guard, obviously, you have J.J. Redick. Furkan. But he might be a little
Stauskas.
Is the mayor of Philadelphia even going to be there?
Yeah, he's likely to get pushed out of town.
So, Dave, if you want to jump in, I mean,
I kind of want to say power forward. I
so you want to stretch forward?
The power forward behind Dario.
You need someone who can play on the court at the same time, because at the 5 you have Richaun Holmes, Joel Embiid, and then obviously Amir Johnson. Amir Johnson can't play the 4, and they can't use Embiid and Richaun Holmes on the court at the same time. They very much are split minutes because they're not complementary pieces. So in my mind, it's you need a shooter out there, because Dario will take shots if he has to. It's not obviously the best thing for the team. We watched him kind of default into that primary option after Embiid left. But I think that if they could add, I don't want them to go back for Ersan Ilyasova. I don't want a chucker out there. I'm looking for someone who can play complementary ball. And it's unfortunately the problem right now is Ja's value is so low that I don't even know if you're going to get they're probably going to go out and get a best case scenario. If you package Ja plus something, you can hope for a late first round. That's honestly my best.
So you're not
I'm not even going for a player. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think there's a player out there that I like enough that I would see a team giving up for Ja. I think Ja's best value is go for a potential late 1 for a team, and that way you give him a chance to be a fresh start. Because look, he's had a disappointing second year. He's unmotivated. He's slow, and honestly, the effort level is clearly lacking right now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I would take that too, because the thing that you got to think about with Ja is, at the end of this year, they've got a player or a club option, and really, are you at the end of the year going to take that club option?
I would not spend $6 million on Jahlil Okafor, especially with Covington and Embiid coming up, and all of these free agents.
It's crazy to think of. It's not crazy to say. It's crazy to think of. Number 3 overall pick 2 years ago.
Yeah,
is that how long ago that draft
guy fell out of bed and dropped 20 and 10 almost in his rookie year. And we're talking about how much of a useless, effortless talent he is. I mean, it's just like, dude needs to put in work and get a fresh start somewhere, because I think he can be in a similar vein to Enes Kanter. Yeah. He has excellent post moves.
He's great,
but
down low.
Offensively, outside of his offensive game, he's a net negative, and it's not even close how far off it is.
And there's some things with Ja. I mean, he's got the moves offensively. I mean, there's something that he's just gifted out there. But also, I mean, he's gifted for 1990s basketball. Final question.
Good kind of basketball.
Final question that I was kind of building up to is obviously have Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons currently out on the same court, and that's starting lineup. Do you think that if this team starts struggling, they will split them up and put one of them onto the second unit, kind of have that first scoring option, so Dario doesn't have to do that, and then they could also have a primary ball handler in a Markelle Fultz or in a Ben Simmons, and maybe they have where those guys aren't on the same court at the same time, but they're still getting similar minutes.
Yeah, I could see them doing an early sub out on Fultz and letting a veteran like Jared Bayless go out there, who's a combo shooting guard who very comfortable in the role. I think that would probably be my first when you first take that early time out, I could see Fultz getting on the bench, or even if they want to switch Simmons out. But I agree with you. I think that they'll start together for the first couple minutes of a game, and it's very much going to be dependent on who has the feel right now, because again, early on this season, it's going to be a lot of testing. There's no right or wrong answer going into this season.
You virtually have. I know Ben Simmons has been in the league
he's a rookie,
but you got 2 rookies.
He's never played a regular season
you have 2
game.
rookies out there.
And then final thing is obviously talking about the playoffs and getting there. So first off, it's the talk of, I mean, obviously the East is open again, like we mentioned, Pacers, Hawks, Bulls losing star players, most likely not going to be in there. What teams do you think are fighting for those 3 playoff spots now? And then ultimately, will the Sixers get one of those 3 positions? Because I think we can all assume that maybe the Hawks have the best chance out of those 3. But other than that, I mean, do you think the 76ers can jump into the playoffs this season, which is weird saying?
Right now, yeah. Right now, yeah. But like, I look at it and I go, the only teams are the ones we mentioned earlier. The Heat, Hornets, and Sixers are going to be the ones fighting for it. But we still have not seen the rest of free agency. Let's see. I mean, I know it's going to sound crazy to say, let's see what the Knicks do without Phil Jackson and how they fill out a team, or what happens. Do they move Melo, get rid of Melo? There's a lot of things left to go. You think that's going to help their team, though?
Make the playoffs?
I mean, I said the Bulls were going to be the 8th seed last year, and people laughed at me, so anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Honestly, yeah, I think the obvious choices are still the Heat. I like them, even if they don't get Hayward. If we get to see a healthy Kellen Winslow. God, I'm just
Kellen
thinking.
Winslow.
Kellen Winslow was never healthy for his NFL career.
Yeah, I was going to say, that poor injured tight end.
Should we make the Kellen Winslow podcast?
Sorry.
Who are you thinking of?
I am sorry. Winslow.
Justice.
Thank you. I was like, I couldn't get his first name. Justice Winslow will be healthy this year. I'd love to see this team play. But honestly, the thing is, like, we had the Pistons ranked really high during last offseason. They underperformed hilariously bad.
Yeah, because Reggie Jackson's a point guard.
Yep. So I think it's the Hornets, the 76ers. I'm a wild card this one and say if the Nets pull off a miracle and get Otto Porter on a max deal. Did you not see that?
No. It's the Nets.
That's why I said miracle.
Man, the Nets have money to throw around.
Karis LeVert, Otto Porter.
Otto Porter's your like second? Well, I mean, is he your second option?
That's
and D'Angelo Russell's your first?
I'm just saying, that's your 1, 2, 3.
Hey, man, he showed up. D. Russell showed up to the workout. Karis didn't. Remember that.
He called him out. I'm just saying, if they landed an Otto Porter at the max deal and then somebody else, some other players, wild card. No, I'm just with you.
All right.
I love the Nets, but no.
All right. I think the
answer is not the Magic. Just for you, Sean. I got you guys.
The answer is not the Magic. I think the Heat, Pistons, Hornets, and 76ers will fight for it, and we'll see what ends up with that team. I think ultimately the 76ers will make it in, though, just because I want it to happen.
I think they will. I think it's going to be willed into me and Magic. Like, that's just where we're at.
Anyways,
that's the NBA today.
Anyways, on Blog Talk Radio and YouTube, you can obviously tell that it's getting a little bit late, but we still got one more topic. Yep. It should be fun if you are watching on YouTube. Don't forget to drop a like, and also tell us if you think the 76ers are going to make it into the playoffs.